Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadankitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवां श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण श्रीललिता विशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुण सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेषाय शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणी जयो श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Matajis. Welcome you all to the online Bhagavad Gita classes from ISKCON Mangalore. So last week we covered until chapter 11, yeah, and then 12th we did an intro wherein say we saw the first 7 verses, and from today onwards we'll continue there. Nandita Mataji, do you want to give a ticker to
About
uh,
what, Prabhu?
the devotee saying that the class has started?
Oh, yes, I did, Prabhu.
Oh, okay,
I did,
thank
I
you,
did.
Mataji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So, 12th chapter we were discussing, right? So 12th chapter is about devotional service. Okay. So until 11th chapter, so 11th chapter was what Vishwarup, right? So wherein 8 and 9, right? And 10 chapters, right? So the Lord had described about his opulences, yeah. And then so in the 11th chapter he showcased it, yeah. So there was a lot of theoretical concepts which were given, and then he told us to see in best of everything and then so all his opulences, right? So and then at the end of 11th chapter, right, he gives that an introduction to devotional service, yeah. At the end again he says that so devotional service is the highest. And so with the continuation of 11th chapter, right, now in 12th chapter it begins with Arjuna's questions again, yeah. So like any other chapter, right? So here Arjuna actually asks Lord Krishna about his position, yeah. So because he went through these all phases, right? So he went he saw this Vishwarupa, and then he was bewildered, and then he asked the four-handed form, Narayana form, and then he saw the Shyam Sundara form of two-handed form, right? So he went into all these transitions, and he was more dear when he saw the Shyam Sundara form. Okay, so that's the one which actually most pleased him. Yeah, so that's the reason he wanted to know his stand. So he starts the 12th chapter by asking questions to Arjuna, to Krishna, saying that whether the personal form is better or the impersonal form. So which kind of worship is better? Yeah. So he wanted to clarify whether the situation which he is in, right? So whether he's on the right track or not. Yeah. To which actually Krishna answers his questions. Yeah. And then he says that so whosoever does the devotional service to me, right? So who always thinks about me, and then who's engaged in my worship, right? And with faith. So he says that they are very dear to him. Yeah. So this thing came in, and then say we went through the comparison between the yeah the impersonal and personal one. Yeah, correct. So wherein so we went through, right? So even in the previous chapters also we went through the impersonalist and personalist form. So wherein the impersonalist form is difficult, right? So rather than the personal form is easy, or so we can actually meditate it on it, and then we can actually think of it, and then we can do the service. Yeah. So the and because we are habituated of a form, right? So that's the reason the personal form is more interesting to us, and then so we can better connect, and then we can do all our services, and then we can feel the reciprocation also. And then we saw that the Lord actually takes all our services in the form of Archavikra, right? And then we saw the example of the post office, right? So the post box. So wherein so Prabhupada has given an analogy saying that the registered post boxes, right? So which are the government ones, right? So if you post a letter, then that letter goes to the destination, right? As per the correspondence. Yeah? So had it been that we put a letter which is a dummy one or a broken, say, post office, which doesn't have, which is not a recognized government post office thing, yeah. So box, then it will not go. So in that way, so the archavigrahas are the ones where we do the prana pratishtha, right? And then so those are authorized, and then so Krishna accepts, yeah. So whatever we offer, but yeah, as we all know, right? So it should be with love and faith, yeah. So that's been discussed in previous chapters, right? Patram pushpam phalam toyam, yeah. Yome bhaktya. So anything with bhakti, okay. And then we were discussing this particular shloka here. And before I start this shloka, so today is Radhashtami here. So there'll be an evening program in the temple link. So do join. So it'll be in the evening. I think that message might have been shared to you. So you can join in. So we'll have Abhishek, and we'll have all Kirtans and all. Yeah. So you do join it. Okay. Yeah. So this was the shloka which we were looking in, right? So Tesham aham samudrata mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha mai eva shita chetasam. So here in this verse, the Lord says that He will personally come and deliver us, right? So because this material world, right? So the samsara sagarat. So this material world is like an ocean, yeah. And then so whatsoever good swimmer we are, right? So we can't swim this material ocean. And then this needs a lift. And then the Lord says that so whosoever engages in the devotional service and always meditates on him, right? So the Lord comes and delivers him. Yeah. So he'll come and Garuda and pick us, but we'll have to be such fortunate. Okay. So this is what we covered until last week. Yeah. So I just refreshed because there were few devotees who missed the class. So that's the thing. Yeah. And so this is more or less what we covered in. Yeah. And we'll go to the next sloka. Yeah. Or the next section also. So here, this is the progressive stage of devotion. Yeah. So now Krishna mentioned until the seventh shloka, right? He stress that devotional service is the best, right? And then now he'll say the ways of doing the devotional service. Okay, so how we can do it, yeah, because not everyone can do everything, right? So Krishna is merciful, and then he gives us 4 5 options. Okay, so by which we can reach to him. Okay, so this is the next verse. Yeah, this is 8.8. Yeah, so this is nothing but Ananya Bhakti. Okay, so this is the first one by which we can reach him. Yeah, मय्येव मन आदत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवेशस्य मय्येव अथ ऊर्ध्वं न संशय. So here the Lord says that this is about the pure devotees, yeah. So whose mind is always fixed, yeah. So they are in complete trance, right? So in samadhi, right? So they always have their minds fixed on him, and then they engage all their intelligence, yeah, everything, right? So all their senses, everything are utilized for the Lord, yeah. So in that case, right, so they have the direct relationship with the Lord, okay. So who are in samadhi, right, so they have direct relationship, and then one can only understand when he is in that bhav, okay. So for normal people like us, we can't understand that, yeah. So only, so we'll have to raise to that level, so wherein we can see Krishna in everything, yeah. And then how do we use those these things, right? So for Krishna service, so that stage is very very advanced, yeah. So but yeah, and then they don't look at anything at the material things, yeah. So the way we look in, right? So and say for them, right? So everything is Krishna only, right? So whatever they see, so their vision is all Krishna only, and then even the whatever they do, right? Chant, dance, take anything, and then say the prasadam, everything, yeah. And then just see through. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will be in me always without a doubt. So, he is giving a guarantee, nah, saying that fix everything. So, if you say here, Krishna is sitting with Gopas, right? So, for them, right, Krishna was everything. Yeah. So, they didn't have any other world. Yeah. So, they used to sit, eat, and play with him. Yeah. So, that's a different bhav. Yeah. So he says that the performing devotional service only by thinking Lord Krishna, right? So this is the one. Yeah. So they cannot live actually a second without thinking of the Lord. Yeah. So if you see here, so it's been told that is from devotee is transcendental from very beginning, lives in Krishna without a doubt. So there is no doubt. Yeah. So you can take examples of Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. So who was always, who was always engaged in devotional service, and then always he was chanting the name of the Lord, yeah, and Hanuman also, right? So we have many more examples if you can think of, right? So they always think of the Lord, so they don't have any other engagement. Yeah, for them there is no doubt. Yeah? So this is one of the way, yeah. So wherein you can engage your both mind and intelligence. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then if we are not able to do this, right? So this is not possible by everyone, right? So like all of us can't do this, right? So then Krishna gives another solution for us. Yeah. So if this doesn't work, right? So he says that if you can't fix the mind on Krishna without deviation, right? So then he says that there is one more option. Yeah. So he gives in 12.9. Yeah. He says that do sadhana bhakti. Okay. So he gives, so if one option wherein we can't fix the mind, right? Yeah, fixing mind on Krishna is not that easy, yeah, because it it needs a lot of practice, and then say we'll have to be on an elevated platform to always think of Krishna. So think of chanting itself, right? Say we can maybe chant 16, say every day we are doing 16, right? So if we get a chance, maybe we can increase in some day by another 4. Yeah. But can we do a 64 or 128 chanting in a day? So maybe few can do it, but not all, right? So that's because we can't focus. So our mind is not that, um, say, focused, right? So wherein we can actually chant 128 malas for Krishna. So 7 to 8 hours, if somebody says sit continuously and chant, right? So well, at least for me, it's an impossible thing. So I can't at least continuously sit for 8 hours and then chant, yeah, because we can't focus our mind so long on Krishna. Yeah. So in the morning itself, for 16 rounds, so we struggle, and then so once 16 are done, right? So yeah, on Ekadashis or any other days, we may chant 1 or 2 more rounds. But yeah, but in the temple, right? So recently from last month, Navnist Prabhu has started. Yeah, those whoever wants, right, to chant 32 rounds, right? So they can join on Ekadashis and weekends, right? So the chanting happens from 3:30. Yeah. So I think if there are any candidates or devotees, right? So who feel that they can chant 32 rounds, so you're welcome, and then you can join them. Yeah. So that starts at 3:30. So on Ekadashis and weekends. So you can join the temple link from 3:30 onwards and then chant until 7, including Mangal Aarti. Yeah? Okay. So this is the second step, yeah. So which is nothing but sadhana bhakti. Yeah. Atachitam samadhatum nasa saknoshi maistiram abhyase yogena tato mam ichhaptam arj dhananjaya. So here he says that if you're not always able to think of me, right? So the Lord says that do sadhana. Okay. So if you're not able to fix your mind without deviation, okay. So he says that do sadhana. Okay. Sadhana is nothing but the one which Prabhupada has given us and then which we are following in, right? The regulative principles, following the regulative principles, yeah. And then chanting, uh, and then doing kirtans, listening to Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, yeah, and and what else do we do? Any service, right? So any service which we do in, right? So all these things fall under that. Even prasadam, right? So offering prasadam to Krishna, yeah, and then eating them. So all these things, right? So here, right? So he says that in this way, right? So by doing all these things, right? So we'll actually purify our senses and they'll get regulated. So we had that this one, right? Verse where yukta ahara viharasya. So we'll actually get the detachment from the material world and then we'll advance towards the spiritual thing. Yeah, our senses should be more engaged into that. Yeah. So and this love, right? So this dormant love for the God, right? So it is always there within us. Okay. So um, it is there for every human being because we are a spark of the Lord, right? We are a minute spark of the Lord, and everyone has that dormant love. But the only thing is, it needs to get ignited. Yeah? So that only can be done either by an association, yeah, with a pure devotee, yeah, or say any other means in devotion. Say if we get contact in any of the devotional service or in kirtans or eating prasadam or some way or the other, right? So if we get connected, then this love gets ignited. Yeah. So once it is there, right? So it is like normal. So every child, right? So usually every child has the capability of walking. Yeah. So the only thing is he needs some practice and then he starts walking, right? So he'll struggle for some time. He'll crawl for some time, yeah. And then he'll stand and then he'll use some support for some time and then he walks, right? So the same way, right? We also have that dormant love for the Lord. The only thing is it has to be nurtured and then it has to be guided. Then it automatically comes up and then it will move on, yeah. And then this doesn't need any qualification although, yeah. So okay, anyone can do it, right? So this is sadhana bhakti. So here it's been said that, my dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you can't fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of bhakti yoga. Yeah, in this way you'll develop a desire to attain me. Okay. So if you can't do devotional service, right, then follow the sadhana bhakti. Yeah. How to achieve this is through practice of devotional service with present senses. So this is the sadhana, right? So how to follow? This is under the guidance of Guru. Yeah. And qualification to practice, anyone can practice. Yeah? Guarantee of success, there is surety of love of Godhead. So that's there. So underneath this, right? So Prabhupada has written these things and then he has given us these things also, right? So like this is the sadhana, right? One should rise early in the morning, yeah, take bath, enter the temple and offer prayers, chant Hare Krishna, collect flowers, offer to the deity, cook foods to offer to the deity, yeah, and take prasadam and so on. So all these things, right? So this we already have in, and of all this, right? So chanting is important. Yeah? So that's the morning sadhana wherein we start in, right? So without doing proper chanting, right? Say we can't do anything. Yeah. So the chanting actually sets the day for a devotee. Okay. And yeah, I think we have been actually doing this L2 since July, right? So just wanted to check Matajis and Prabhujis. Just can you type in the number of rounds we do in the chat? Yeah. So because this sadhana thing came in, right? Devotional service is all because for us, right? So we all are basically sadhakas, yeah. So we are actually learning and then so we are moving on, right? So if um, you all can tell me, say, how many rounds each one of you are doing the chanting. Okay, Rajeshwari Mataji does 16. Haribol. Wow. Prabhu, you are like anything. Yeah? 32 rounds, is it? Sukant Prabhu, you have. Where do you find time, Prabhu? Nice. Did I mute you, Prabhu? You are inspiration then for us in this. Yeah, and then Kiran Kulkarni also, Kiran Prabhu also does 16. Haribol. Wow.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavattanam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So tell us something about your sadhana. How do you do
Yes,
32 rounds?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. It is interesting to share because when I started, I was not attached to any congregations or any of the kind of association. So
Okay.
I used to hear from YouTube's, and I used to listen lectures from various devotees, and then
Okay.
at my disposal, what was there, what I could do as my sadhana was only chanting.
Okay.
So and luckily, by the mercy of Lord Krishna, at that point of time, my office, my office started from my home. I have started working from home.
Ah.
That gave me ample of time, and I started increasing. Like I started with 4 rounds a day initially, and
Okay.
then increased it to 8, and then 12, and then reached up to
Yeah.
32 now. And by the grace by the grace of God, I can still continue up to 32. And on Ekadashis, I do a little more.
Wow. So when do you chant, Prabhu? All these rounds in the morning, one at one stretch?
Yes, Prabhu. The first 16 is at a stretch. First 16,
Okay.
starting from 5:30 to 6:45, 7 o'clock around.
Uh-huh.
And then next, if I can continue, then I continue. And sometime I take a break and finish it, say at the afternoon. So after post lunch, I finish the remaining rounds. That's how it
Wow.
is.
Nice. Nice, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, and even, okay, Shiv Kumar Prabhu also does 18. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Nice, Prabhu. So, do you do daily, Shiva Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Nice.
I don't have any prescribed duties nowadays. That's why whole day I am engaging myself in chanting only
Wow. Okay.
and attending some classes and one ISKCON.
Oh,
Hare
okay.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prita Mataji, say how many you chant?
Uh, Prabhuji, 1 to 2 rounds, not
Ah,
much
that's
more than
okay,
that,
Mataji. But you do it
Prabhuji.
regularly, no, Mataji?
Yeah, I'm doing it regularly,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So, Mataji, try every Ekadashi, right? Try one round, increasing one round. So it will not take more. It will be like 7 more minutes, right? So now you might be
Uh-huh.
spending 15, right? That will become 21,
Uh-huh.
and then half an
Uh-huh.
hour. So at least by this course ends, right? Try to chant at least 4 to 8 rounds, Mataji. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So because the next level needs those many rounds. Nandita Mataji, it is 8 rounds or 4 rounds for third level?
4, Prabhu. Right now it's 4.
4. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Okay. Nice. Durgesh Prabhu, how many do you chant? How many rounds? Okay, I have to unmute. Huh? Okay. Sorry. Okay, that's fine then. So those who are chanting, I think few of them are chanting exceptionally well, yeah. And so this is what our food for. This is the devotional for our day. How do we want to connect, right? So this is like the kavach for the whole day. Yeah? So if you have heard Namnist Prabhu's classes anytime, right? He says that this is the kavach which actually helps us uh, for that day, right? For that 24 hours, right? The morning chanting, the morning sadhana which we do in, right? So that actually carries or gives the protection until the next morning. Yeah. The next morning again we get up chant. Yeah. And then I'd request you all to join the Mangal Arti also, right? At times, if you have time, right? So you can join the Mangal Arti also. Yeah. So So if it is not feasible daily, but try whenever you can, yeah. And then if you feel that the chanting, right? So chanting alone is very isolated, right? So Nam Mr. Prabhu actually chants every day. We chant, right? So every day post Mangal Arati, right? If you join the temple link from 4:30, right? The Mangal Arati happens and then it finishes just at 5, right? Mangala Arti, Narsimha Arti, and then Tulsi Arti, right? So all these things finish, and then the chanting starts at 5, uh, and then until 7, right? So you can tune in. So there are a lot of devotees if you want the company, right? So it will be good actually. So you can get few of them can get inspired also, right? So looking at others, yeah, and don't worry about the struggle. Yeah, struggle is always there because the day and age we are in, right? And the kind of day-to-day activities we are into, right? So our workplace and the lifestyle and the cities which we live in, right? It makes us hard to chant, but that's the only option for us. Yeah. So from there, right, everything will start. So if chanting is proper, right? So everything will come into track. So you might be having so many doubts and all, right? So half of your doubts would be clarified when you chant properly. Yeah. And then even you'll see a lot of changes in your lifestyle also. So do it. So do it for 15 days, do it for 2 weeks, and then you just see what changes you have. Yeah. Okay. Whereas this chapter is all about devotional service, right? So that's the reason I just wanted to stress about chanting. Yeah. Chanting is very important. And then followed by that the books. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. For us, right, these are the two books which we'll have to read through. Yeah. And Bhagavatam, every day there is a class which Naminister Prabhu takes at 8 o'clock. Yeah. So that's for English. And then there are language classes also which are being held, yeah, which we can listen and then possibly we can start our work. Yeah. So that is what I do. So until I'll get connected to the temple link until 9. Yeah. Okay. So that's something we saw. And then now Krishna says that if this is also not possible, right? For few, this might not be also possible. Okay. So then he gives another thing. Yeah. He gives Nishkama Karma Yoga, right? He says that if you can't, he says Abhyasyapi Asamartho Asi. Mat karma parmo bhava madartham api karmani kurvan siddham avapyasyasi. So he says that if you can't practice, right, if you feel that sadhana yoga cannot be done, right, then he says that just work for him, right? Say like building the temple or say sweeping the temple or whatever we can do in, right? So do it and then don't be attached to the work. So whatever you do it for Krishna and live it. So that's what we know, right? So this Kam Karma Yoga. So that is the third category. Okay. Even if we do this, right? So we'll go back to Godhead. Okay. So work for Krishna. So if you can't do, right? So if you can't do this devotional service, yeah. So and then you can't do the regulative principle thing also, right? So then he says work for Krishna. Okay. Rajni Mataji will discuss at the end. So we'll continue this and then we'll discuss. I saw your message. So work for Krishna. How to perform work for Krishna, right? So say endeavor. So if you can't do all these things, right? Say like for building a temple or publish books, right? So all these things need land and power, right? So you can assist in all those things. Yeah. So if you can't do all those things. The first two things, if you can't do, then do the other thing. Yeah. So just work for Krishna and then leave the fruits. So this is Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yeah. And then Krishna says that if you still say that if you can't do this, so but these are the most important ones. If we do these three, right? So going back to the Godhead is confirmed. Yeah. So and so the next thing is, if at all you can't do any of these things, right? So those three categories are gone. The top three are gone. So he says that you do Sakama Karma. Yeah. So if you, however, you are unable to work in the consciousness, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. Okay. He says do renunciation. Yeah. So do punya. Okay. So even while doing punya also, so at least you'll keep the Lord, right? So you know that, okay, so if I do some good work, right? So you have that consciousness at least that so if you do good work, then you are expecting something, right? So all those things will come in here. Okay. So he says that try to give up all your work and be self-situated. Okay. So these are few social service and community services and all, right? So this is Sakama. So at the end, you expect something, but you do good service. Yeah. This is all related to punya. Yeah. And he says that even that's not possible, right? So for few of them, so they can't do, right? Then he says that cultivate the devotional knowledge. Okay. So if you can't do that, right? So he says that if you can't take to practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Okay. So and then he says that by reading the Shastras and Vedas, right? So you cultivate the knowledge, right? So which will actually help us to know, say, about the God, right? And then he says that better than the knowledge is meditation. Yeah? And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. Okay. And by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So these are all the ways which the Lord has given us. Yeah. So to do the devotional service. Yeah. And most of the thing, right? So we are actually, by the grace of Prabhupada, right? So we are in the second category. Yeah? So wherein we are doing sadhana bhakti, and then we should continue that, yeah, our journey, and then see through that we go back to Godhead. Yeah. So this is what fixed mind on Krishna. 9 is regulative principles. Yeah. And then 10 is work for Krishna. Yeah. And then giving up results. Yeah. So all these things. So giving up results of the work is nothing but niskam karma yoga. If we can't do that, so then it's a meditation. Okay. So the Lord says that because that will again bring us gradually there, you'll get purified, and then again you'll come into the track of devotional service. Okay. So Krishna has given us the clear picture here. So he has given us a few of them might be having challenges, right? Say like maybe the family or so the upbringing. So they may not be able to do all these things, right? So for them, at least he suggested do punya, right? So into 12.11, right? So and few people say that they don't have time and all those things, right? For them, they do all this charity work and all those things they can do, right? And if we can't do that also, and then he says that cultivate knowledge, and then at least we'll know the actual knowledge, right? That we are not the body, right? And then so we should cultivate the knowledge, right, which Bhagavad Gita gives us, right? So, and it says that we are not the body, right? And then it even gives us the information of the super soul, yeah. And then how the three modes of nature act on us, yeah. So all these things we'll see in the coming chapters, yeah. And so the lowest of this ladder is, there is a small ladder, so wherein we'll see this description, yeah. This is the indirect path, yeah. So renunciation, cultivation, this is all indirect path, yeah. So this is the lowest one, and the highest one is the mind fixed on Krishna, yeah. And follow regulative principles of sadhana bhakti and work for Krishna. So this is the ladder, yeah. So the topmost being the direct, where the mind is fixed on Krishna. Okay. So we'll enter now into the next section, yeah. So in this section now, Krishna will discuss the qualities. Okay. The qualities of the devotees which attracts him, yeah. Okay. Can someone read this text, please? Anyone who wants to read can raise their hand. Okay, I see someone has raised. Okay, Rajni Mataji. Good, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Bhagavad Gita 12.13 and 14. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. So now Krishna will actually discuss about the qualities, right? So one who is engaged in bhakti yoga, right? So who is a devotee, right? So he exhibits, basically he has these all qualities, yeah. So like uh, for us, right, we want to connect, right? You can connect easily with Srila Prabhupada, okay? You just see all these qualities, you'll be able to find all these qualities in him, yeah. So tolerant, right? So in this purpose, right? So even Prabhupada writes a very nice purpose. The explanation is very nicely given, yeah. So tolerant is he never gets disturbed, okay, say in any of the circumstances, yeah, say either it be good or bad, yeah. And so he treats everyone equally, right? So he doesn't actually treat a friend or an enemy in a different way. For him, right, everything is same, yeah. And even the reason, right, if at all, if he gets say any enmity or something, right, he feels that the devotee feels that this is something he has got, these are the reactions from his past misdeeds, yeah. So and so there is one shloka also in Srimad Bhagavatam which Prabhupada has actually referred, so if you want then you can read that. And he says that in that purport it's been written, yeah. So he feels that any pain or anything which he gets in, right, he thinks that so he has he got a lower portion of it, yeah. So rather say he would have gotten a big major chunk which actually by the Lord's mercy is lessened, and then he's getting only a part of it, yeah. And then he doesn't have this I me mind, right? So he knows because he's not the body, right? So he doesn't have that false ego, yeah. And all man apman, sukha dukkha, so he's equipoised, right? So we have seen that in the previous chapter also, yeah. So and then he's tolerant, yeah. So we know that so in our day-to-day life, right? So there will be ups and downs, yeah. So we can't stop it. So it will not be that every day. If anyone says that every day my life is blooming or it is like shiny, right? So it's not correct. It cannot happen. Right? So everyone has ups and downs, yeah. So until we are in this material world, right? So then that's even certified by Krishna, right? Dukhalayam, Ashashvitam. So if we get the happiness, that would be temporary, yeah. It will never be lasting, yeah. And then they are satisfied, yeah, because they are satisfied by their inner consciousness, yeah. So because they can correlate everything to Krishna, right? So and they have sense control, right? So even whenever they'll have to talk, right? So they remain silent, yeah. So most of the time, right? So they'll be silent, but that doesn't mean that say that they'll never speak, yeah. The silence is towards the material discussions or the material things, yeah. So if there is something which is related to Krishna, any topics related to Krishna, right? Say they'll for sure speak. And the other thing is if anyone tries to defame or anything, right? So they do retaliate, but it's very rare. Yeah? So but anything which is against the devotees or Krishna, right? So they don't tolerate. Rest all things they ignore. Yeah. So this material kind of things, all discussions, they are not much bothered. Yeah. And their cleanliness. The other thing is they're clean both internally and externally. Yeah. So externally, if you see, right, so most of the devotees are fresh. Yeah. And so if you see, right, most of the devotees who are there in the temple, right? So if you see them, right, the kind of energy they have, and say it's like always their faces are lighting. Yeah, say you see in any of the temple, whosoever are there, right, the brahmacharis, particularly, if you see them, right, their faces are always lightning. Yeah, and then their energy levels are never down. Yeah. So that's the reason is anyhow externally they take baths and then they have neat shave and all those things. That's a different thing. But the reason is they are clean internally also. So that's the reason say that particular effulgence we can see in them. And say and then they don't care say like say for opulences, right? Say like they should have a big bungalow, yeah, or say they don't actually lament for them, right? Say to take shelter, right? Say that they don't mean to take shelter underneath a tree or underneath an opulent apartment. Yeah, say they don't actually uh, long for anything. Yeah, say neither for any palatable dishes, any nothing. Yeah, simple whichever food is offered to Krishna, any sanctified food, right? So they will be happy to take them. Yeah. And what else is there? Intelligence. Okay. So we'll see through the decks if we get any more points which I have not covered. Yeah. Santushta. So they are satisfied. Yeah. So whatever comes in, right? So it comes by the grace of the Lord. So they doesn't endeavor to achieve something. So like they are not after money. Yeah. So if money comes in, it's okay. So and then they utilize it for the service of the Lord. It's not that say day in and day out they actually long for money, right? And then even proprietorship, they don't want to become any proprietorship and all those things you'll never find. Yeah, so they're not disturbed also. Yeah. And what else is the non-envious we covered? Yeah, tolerant we covered. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll move to the next one. So thought process of a devotee. Yeah. So if you look in, right, so whenever he's in a distressful condition, yeah. So this is what I was referring. Yeah. So this is the uh, Bhagavatam shloka. Yeah. So you can go in detail when you have time. But what does he think? This is important. Yeah. So whenever there is any distressful condition, right, he thinks that this is due to my past misdeeds. Yeah. I should suffer far, far greater than I am suffering now. Yeah? So that is what the devotee feels in. And then by the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord, I am getting all the punishment I am due, just getting a little. So he says that I'm getting just a piecemeal of it. So rather than getting everything, yeah, he thinks this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. Yeah. So it is better to suffer than to protest. Yeah. So he knows this, and he's always calm, quiet, and patient. Yeah. So he's not envious. He's not disturbed by anyone. Yeah. And then he is fit for liberation. Yeah? Okay. And then we'll see the qualities. Uh, Krishna further tells the qualities. He from whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed in anxiety, who is steady in happiness and distress is very dear to me. Okay. So there are, if you look at this picture, right, anyone has any idea about this picture? We'll discuss one and then move on. No? Okay. So this is the story of Jada Bharata. Okay. So Jada Bharata, actually, he was in his family, right? So his brothers actually used him as a, say, they didn't actually treat him as his their own brother, right? So they ill-treated him always, right? And so they actually asked him to actually be in the fields as a scarecrow, yeah. So and after that, right, and say he left the home, and then so he was wandering here and there, and then so therein, right, a few of the Kali Upasakas, right? So they saw and then they wanted to give a Naravali. So they took him and then they fed him nicely. They put him, they gave him good clothes, yeah, and garland, everything. So even at that time, he was undisturbed. So he was not, he didn't have any happiness saying that I got new clothes, nice food to eat, and then they treated well. Yeah. And in the night, right, they actually took him for Bali. Even at that time, he was not, say, bothered. Yeah. So he didn't have any anxiety or distress. Yeah. Because he was actually doing that. And so at the outside world, right, he was actually showing them that he's dumb, right? But internally, he was always in trance with the Lord. So it didn't matter much about this material world to him. Yeah. So, and then when that sword came in, right, then goddess Kali appeared. Yeah. And then so whosoever was doing that, right? So you see all these weapons came out and then everyone was thrown apart. Yeah. Thus releasing Jada Bharata. Okay. So this is, I just cut short the story, but yeah, anytime you have time, then you can read this. Okay. So I just wanted to tell you about the happiness and anxiety, and then they are not disturbed, and then how their minds are fixed. So they have total faith. Yeah. So had it been any of us, right? If anyone shows a knife, right? So we'll actually run away. So from that place, right? But yeah, so those are different souls. Yeah. So even if you look next Prahlad Maharaj, right? So he was tortured in so many ways by his demonic father, right? So he was thrown from a cliff. He was actually thrown into fire, snake chamber, then elephants, yeah, whatnot, and he was thrown into the water. Yeah. But he always had trust in the Lord. Yeah. So not affected by others. So he was not affected by any of these things. So by doing all these things, he never said that, Father, you're right, and then I should take your footsteps. Yeah. So he knew that his father is a demon. Yeah. And then though he was born out of a demonic family, yeah, so he never had all those things because he knew. So he was always in trance with the Lord. Yeah. Even when the episode happened, right? So when his father was killed, so nobody could go to the Lord and then pacify him except Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah? And the next one is a devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activity, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and who does not strive for some results is very dear to me. So this is what. So he doesn't expect anything. Yeah. So he actually is fully dependent on the Lord, right? So he doesn't actually care for all those things. Yeah. And then whatever condition he is, right, he is happy, right? So we can take the example of Sudama Brahmana, right? So he never had any issues in the purest of pure life condition also, right? So he was happy. Yeah. And he bought the chipped rice, which he couldn't offer to Krishna, but Krishna took it and then ate, right? And then so after that, Krishna changed everything. That's a different story. But he never went for an expectation saying that Krishna give me opulences. Yeah. And so the next quality is one who neither grasps pleasure or grief, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things is very dear to me. Yeah. So one who doesn't lament, right? So either it is good or bad. So this we actually touch based, right? So if I actually tell, then that will be again a repeat. Yeah. And this is the same thing. Yeah. So he accepts all kinds of risks for the Lord's satisfaction. Yeah. So this is the example of Prahlad Maharaj we can take, and then we can take Haridas Thakur, right? So he was beaten up in 24 markets, right? So they took all risks for what? To satisfy the Lord. Yeah. So they knew that the Lord is there. Yeah. So it's not only during the happiness, right? So during so when things are inauspicious, right? So even then they don't live the Lord. Yeah. Say they always think of the Lord and then they meditate. Yeah. And then one who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, yeah, fame and infamy, who is always free from contamination, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence. Yeah, so this we touch base saying that he is happy either underneath a tree or in an opulent apartment. Yeah, so he doesn't ask that he needs a five-star hotel wherever he goes in, right? So whichever thing he gets in, right? So he is happy. Yeah, and heat and cold, right? So these things will be there. So like in winter, right? So during December and all, everyone wants to have hot water, right? And during summer, so nobody wants to touch hot water. Yeah. So that's the way the life is. And here this example is being given of Ambarish Maharaj, right? So this we already discussed in one of our class, right? So this past time. So he was even when the demon came, he didn't have any reaction, yeah. And even when the Sudarshan Chakra came, he didn't have any reaction. So he was always equipoised, yeah. So unaffected by material emotions. So he's always engaged in devotional service, yeah. And say he's fixed in determination and knowledge, yeah. Satisfied and happy in all conditions, yeah. Yeah. He's Mauni. Silence implies only when he speaks whenever it is essential, yeah. And then he's equipoised, yeah, always free from contamination and equal to friends. And this is just a sum up of everything, yeah. And then these are all the qualities which have been given, yeah. Say how say from 12 to 13 to 19, right? So these are attitudes to self, yeah. So and then when he's dealing with others, he's non-envious and then treats everyone equally, yeah. And so determined, all the time he thinks of the Lord, yeah. So this is the last sloka, so which we'll discuss and then end the session today. He who follows this imperishable path of devotional service, and who completely engages himself with faith, making me the supreme goal, yeah, is very, very dear to me. Yeah. So he says that mat parama bhaktaste teva me priya. So he says that those are very dear to him. Yeah. So those bhaktas, right? So who actually focus everything on Krishna, right? So this only happens with good association, yeah. So good association will get this attachment towards the devotional service, and then we'll have to follow through the spiritual master's advice, right? So what is being told, so we may be having our own logics, so but in spiritual world, right, that doesn't work. So we'll have to, even Krishna says that we'll have to hear, right? So everything starts from chanting, hearing, yeah. So then only things will move on, and then so we'll have to observe all the regulative principles which are there, right, with faith, right, and devotion. So without faith and devotion, nothing will happen. Yeah. So we may get, so if we are doing something mechanically, right, so we'll get say, it's not that we'll not get credit for it, we'll get, but the effective credit should be when we do something in devotion, yeah, and then we follow the footsteps of our guru and acharyas, and then they have given all this process for us, right? So they have gone through this, and then they have given this. This is all tried and tested thing which we are getting in all this sadhana process, everything, right? So it is not something which is newly created. So it has been there, yeah. And so and in here also, right? So the law in this purport, right? It's been said that so one can actually think of the impersonal form, right? So impersonal path until he cultivates the knowledge. Okay, once he cultivates knowledge, right, he should actually develop a direct relationship with the Lord. Yes, he should engage in the devotional service. So that is basically to get the enlightenment towards the devotional path. Yeah. So once we are into that track, right, so everything goes on. So like Prabhupada has given us all this sadhana, right? So morning for the mind, right, we chant, right? And to control our senses, he has given us, he said that we do the offerings and then eat, right? So everything. So if you look in, right, the sadhana structure which is being given, it actually covers all these things. It is up to the individual how much we can actually, four regulative principles, everything, right? They are there. So only thing is we'll have to put some effort, and then with our efforts, right, we'll get the mercy of the Lord and Guru. So without that, right, so it's not possible. Yeah. But one good thing is we are all in that journey. So let's continue and then see say how we can move ahead. Yeah. So he says that dearest of all is one who makes Krishna as the goal of his life. Yeah. What else? Best example is Prabhupada. Yeah. They follow this imperishable path of devotional service. So once you go there, right, there is no birth, age old, right? It's all Anandamaya. Yeah. So you enjoy the life there. Yeah. So with this, we'll end this chapter, and then this actually covers our devotional service. As we had, we have covered 6 chapters now, and then tomorrow onwards, we'll see Jnana Yoga. Yeah, so that's from chapter 13 to 18. Yeah, so I'll stop here, and then if there are any questions, I'll take up. And yeah, anyhow, there is one question which actually Rajni Mataji has asked. Mataji, it happens, but the only thing is, say, while chanting, right, at times we feel sleepy. So one thing is we should have proper sleep, Mataji, over the night, right? So because uh, if we don't have at least 6 hours sleep, right, we can't focus on chanting. Not only chanting, right, the whole day, right? So we should sleep um, to an extent where the body gets all the nourishments, and then you're fresh all throughout the day. Yeah. So usually, at least we should have um, 6 hours good sleep, right? And then you chant in the morning, right? And the other thing is the position also. So this is all I'm telling out of my experiences. See, the position is also very important, Mataji. So if you are sitting on an couch or on a bed, right? So you'll tend to sleep. So look for a suitable place. Yeah. So wherever you can sit. So and then sit erect. So in any of the positions, right? Any of the sukhasanas, right? Say any cross legs or vajrasana, padmasana, whichever is best suits for you, right, Mataji? And then your body should you should sit down. So if cross legs, right? So then what happens is the body circulation all will go upwards. So then so all these things will not happen. So our back should be erect. Yeah. And then our 2 hands, they should be also straight. So if you sit in that position, right, ask anyone to sleep, no one can sleep. Okay. So that's one thing you can try. So I think with that, majority of the problem, so you'll not feel asleep. And say if we sit straight, and if the hands are straight, right, so chances are less. The moment we give the relaxation to hands, right, and then our structure also, if you start bending a little bit, right, so then yeah, so all these things, right, so the loosening of everything starts from there. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. I'll try. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna. Sukant Prabhu, you have anything? Go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I wanted to add to this feeling sleepy during chanting.
Go ahead, Prabhu. Yeah.
There are two points, Prabhuji. One is feeling sleepy at the while chanting. Another is mind is going, here and there, everywhere, other than
Wandering.
chanting. concentration. So in these two, so for sleepy, the one thing you've said, sit, erect, and then this is really helpful. And the other thing that I have heard and I have practiced also, sometimes we feel really sleepy because the sleep was not complete last night. So at that, but I want to complete my chanting. That is my determination. So at that point, what I can do, I can just stand up, or I can just a little stroll, walk inside the temple or inside the home wherever I am, and keep continuing chanting. So if I complete 2-3 rounds while strolling, and then the sleepy, it goes away. And for concentration of mind, there are so many ways. Namnishta Prabhu's class I have attended, he has also given so many 16, 17, 24 ways of controlling mind. But yeah, so with this, the certain thing that helps, at least personally, I felt is if I try to, so if my mind is going everywhere other than this Krishna, then what I can do, I can meditate upon any one of the sloka. I try to memorize, recite mentally, and while chanting. So that keeps my mind busy in that sloka at least, not in anything else. That's how it helps somehow.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. And then this is also a valid point, which I missed saying, that standing up, right? So most of the time, if you see, right, say at least for beginners, right, walking, we may actually again concentrate on our walk, right? So it'll be like, so you'll be cautious with your walk. At least you can stand. So standing will help. So which Prabhu said, right? So that is also one way. So which is very good actually. So you can stand. No harm in standing and chanting. Even you can walk also, but the thing is you should have that consciousness. So if you have that consciousness, right, you walk, run, it's all okay. But the only thing is we'll become conscious in other things, right? So uh, we'll be more interested in our footsteps and all those things, and then we'll start looking, observing objects and all those things, and then we are gone. Yeah. But yeah, that's a nice suggestion, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'll try that as well.
Okay. So we'll end up the call, the session for today. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining in.